You will never heal your prostate if you keep doing the same 10 habits every single day. I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. These habits may feel small, even harmless, yet together they quietly destroy your prostate from the inside. No matter what pills you take or treatments you try, as long as these daily mistakes continue, your prostate will stay inflamed, your nights restless, and your energy drained. My name is Dr. Mohit Khera. I am a professor of urology and men's health with over 3 decades of experience treating men just like you, men in their 60s and 70s who thought prostate problems were simply part of aging. I've dedicated my life to helping men regain control of their health, restore their vitality, and protect their dignity. Here's the paradox. Most men believe their enlarged prostate or constant nighttime trips to the bathroom are just inevitable. They believe weak flow, frequent urgency, or even poor performance in the bedroom come with the territory of getting older. But the truth is, age is not the enemy. It's the hidden habits repeated day after day that quietly block your body's ability to heal. That's why I want to promise you this. If you stay with me, I will reveal the 10 specific daily habits that stop your prostate from ever recovering, and I'll show you how to replace them with healthier choices that can restore balance, ease, and strength to your life. And make sure you don't miss the very end, because the number one most destructive habit is also the one almost every man over 60 is guilty of. Before we get started, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another men's health tip designed especially for you. And if you find this video helpful, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and let me know how I can improve these videos for you. Now that you understand how these hidden habits keep your prostate from healing, let's begin with the first one. It may sound simple, but it's something almost every man does without thinking. This daily mistake puts unnecessary strain on both your bladder and your prostate, holding in your urine. 10. Holding in your urine. Holding in your urine may feel harmless, but it is one of the most damaging daily habits for your prostate. I have seen countless men come into my office embarrassed to admit how often they hold it because they don't want to interrupt a task, leave a conversation, or stop while they are driving. They think it shows control or strength, but in reality, it is silently harming their bladder and prostate. When you consistently ignore the urge to urinate, you create pressure inside your urinary system. Over time, this stretches and weakens the bladder muscles, making it harder to empty fully. That leftover urine becomes a breeding ground for bacteria. Infections that start in the bladder can travel upward and inflame the prostate, leading to pain, burning, and swelling that no man wants to experience. Even more, when urine sits too long, minerals crystallize into kidney or bladder stones. These stones not only cause unbearable pain, but also irritate the urinary tract, placing even more stress on the prostate. I remember one patient, a man in his late 60s, who thought holding it during long car rides was no big deal. By the time he came to me, he had repeated infections and a stone the size of a marble. He admitted he wished he had listened to his body earlier. So I want you to take this seriously. Never ignore your body's natural signals. When you feel the urge, make it a priority to go. It is not weakness, it is wisdom and respect for your health. Now, if holding your urine can cause so much damage, wait until you hear about the next hidden danger. Something millions of men reach for every single day without realizing it slowly destroys their prostate from within. 9. Overusing painkillers. Overusing painkillers is a habit that many men fall into without realizing the hidden cost. Medications like ibuprofen, aspirin, or naproxen are easy to grab when your back aches, your knees hurt, or you just want relief from the daily stiffness that comes with age. I understand that temptation. I've had patients look me in the eye and say, "Doc, those little pills are the only thing that keep me moving." But what most men don't know is that these drugs can quietly damage the delicate blood flow your prostate depends on to heal. By reducing circulation to the kidneys and surrounding tissues, painkillers deprive your prostate of the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Over time, this starved environment allows inflammation to grow stronger, leaving you trapped in a cycle of pain and swelling that no pill can truly fix. I still remember one gentleman in his 70s who Me to see me. He had been taking painkillers daily for years just to get through his golf games. By the time he sat in my office, his kidney function had already declined, and his prostate symptoms had worsened to the point where he barely slept at night. He admitted no one had ever told him that harmless, over-the-counter pills could have such a lasting effect. His story is not unique. So if you find yourself reaching for painkillers day after day, stop and ask yourself if you're masking pain at the expense of your prostate's future. There are safer paths, natural anti-inflammatories, stretching, gentle exercise that don't rob your prostate of its lifeline. And if this surprised you, just wait until you hear about the next silent saboteur, a habit so common that almost every man is guilty of it, yet it leaves your prostate dry, irritated, and unable to recover. 8. Not drinking enough water. Not drinking enough water may seem like a small oversight, but it is one of the most damaging habits for your prostate. Your body depends on water to flush out toxins, keep your urine diluted, and allow your prostate and bladder to work without constant irritation. When you don't drink enough, your urine becomes concentrated, almost like acid, and that concentrated fluid passes directly over the delicate tissues of your prostate and urinary tract. Over time, this irritation leads to inflammation, burning, and even the formation of stones that can make every bathroom trip painful. I often think about a patient I once treated, a retired teacher in his late 60s. He proudly told me he hardly drank water, only coffee and soda throughout the day. He believed it saved him from making too many trips to the restroom. But when I examined him, his prostate was swollen, his urine filled with crystals, and he struggled with constant urgency. The very thing he thought was helping, drinking less to avoid the bathroom, was actually trapping him in a cycle of irritation and discomfort. After a few months of simply increasing his water intake, his symptoms began to ease. It was a reminder that sometimes the simplest changes bring the greatest relief. So let me be clear. Drinking enough water is not optional. It is essential. A hydrated prostate is a healthier, calmer prostate, one that has the chance to heal rather than remain inflamed. And if a lack of water can cause this much harm, just imagine what happens when you load your body every day with something even more dangerous. Too much salt, the silent enemy that can swell your prostate from the inside out. 7. Eating too much salt. Eating too much salt is one of those habits most men don't even think about, yet it silently chips away at the health of your prostate. Salt hides everywhere: canned soups, deli meats, frozen dinners, fast food, and every time you consume it in excess, your body holds on to water, your blood pressure rises, and your blood vessels struggle under the added strain. Now, here's the part many men don't realize. Those same tiny blood vessels are responsible for nourishing your prostate. When they are congested or damaged from years of high sodium intake, your prostate doesn't get the steady blood flow it needs to heal. Instead, it stays swollen, irritated, and inflamed. I once spoke with a man in his early 70s who told me he had given up on the idea of ever having a quiet night's sleep. He was up 3 or 4 times each night to use the bathroom. When I reviewed his diet, I found that nearly every meal came from a box or a drive-thru, loaded with hidden sodium. He wasn't intentionally harming himself, he simply didn't know. After cutting back on processed foods and cooking more at home, his nighttime trips were cut in half within just a few months. His relief was visible, and he admitted he finally understood that salt had been silently working against him all those years. So when you reach for that shaker or microwave dinner, remember the price your prostate pays. Healing begins when you strip away the excess, and if salt can quietly cause so much damage, wait until you discover the devastating effects of processed foods, the daily convenience that is far more destructive to your prostate than you might ever imagine. 6. Eating processed foods. Eating processed foods is one of the most damaging habits for your prostate, yet it's also one of the easiest to fall into. Convenience meals, frozen dinners, pastries, chips, and packaged snacks may save time, but they come at a heavy cost. These foods are often loaded with sodium, sugar, unhealthy fats, and preservatives that fuel inflammation throughout your body, and inflammation is the enemy of healing. For your prostate, that constant low-grade inflammation means swelling, irritation, and a bladder that never seems to rest. I remember a man in his mid-60s who came to see me, frustrated that nothing seemed to work. He was taking supplements, exercising lightly, and even trying to drink more water, but his symptoms barely improved. When I asked him to walk me through his diet, it became clear. Almost every meal came from a package. Breakfast was boxed cereal, lunch was a frozen sandwich, and dinner was fast food. His body was starved of real nutrients and drowning in chemicals. We worked together to slowly replace his processed meals with fresh vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. Within 3 months, his urgency eased, his flow improved, and he told me he finally felt like himself again. Your prostate does not need preservatives, additives, or cheap oils. It needs nourishment. Every time you choose real, whole foods, you give your body the building blocks it needs to repair. But if processed foods can cause this much harm, think about the silent threat most men overlook entirely: high blood pressure, the silent killer, which can strangle your prostate's blood supply without you even noticing. 5. Ignoring high blood pressure. Ignoring high blood pressure is one of the most dangerous mistakes a man can make, not only for his heart, but also for his prostate. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer because it creeps up without symptoms, damaging blood vessels slowly and relentlessly. The tiny vessels that nourish your prostate are no exception. When pressure remains high for years, those vessels stiffen and narrow, starving your prostate of the oxygen and nutrients it desperately needs to heal. Instead of repairing itself, your prostate remains swollen, irritated, and inflamed, leaving you waking up at night, straining at the toilet, and wondering why nothing seems to work. I once treated a man in his late 60s who insisted his prostate problems were simply a part of aging. He never checked his blood pressure, believing he felt fine. But when we measured it, his numbers were sky high. That unseen force had been slowly choking the life out of his prostate. After he began monitoring his blood pressure, adjusting his diet, exercising more, and taking medication his doctor prescribed, the difference was remarkable. His trips to the bathroom lessened, his energy returned, and for the first time in years he slept through the night. The lesson is clear. Controlling your blood pressure is not just about preventing a stroke or heart attack. It's about giving your prostate a chance to heal. But as damaging as high blood pressure can be, it's nothing compared to what happens when you overload your body with sugar every single day, a sweet poison that inflames your prostate from the inside out. 4. Eating too much sugar. Eating too much sugar is one of the quickest ways to inflame and weaken your prostate. At first, it may seem harmless: a donut in the morning, a soda with lunch, a slice of pie after dinner. But those small indulgences add up, flooding your bloodstream with glucose and forcing your body to work overtime. Excess sugar doesn't just expand your waistline, it disrupts your hormones, raises your blood pressure, and damages the delicate blood vessels that keep your prostate healthy. When those vessels are injured, healing slows to a crawl, leaving your prostate swollen and tender. I remember a patient in his early 70s who came to me with constant urgency and poor flow. He swore he ate pretty healthy. But when we looked closely, most of his diet was filled with hidden sugars, sweetened cereals, sauces, flavored yogurts, and soft drinks. He didn't think of himself as someone with a sweet tooth, yet his body was paying the price. Once we cut back on those sugary foods and replaced them with fresh fruit, vegetables, and spices for natural flavor, his symptoms began to ease. Within months, he felt more energetic, and his nighttime bathroom trips dropped dramatically. He told me, "I never realized sugar was hurting me more than helping me." So take this to heart. Sugar may give you a moment of pleasure, but it robs your prostate of lasting health. And while sugar is a quiet saboteur, the next habit is even more destructive, something many men hold on to for decades, unaware that every puff poisons their prostate from the inside out. 3. Smoking. Smoking is one of the most destructive habits for your prostate, yet too many men underestimate its impact. Every puff releases a cocktail of toxins that enter your bloodstream and travel directly to the delicate vessels surrounding your prostate. Over time, these chemicals scar and narrow the blood supply, starving the prostate of the oxygen and nutrients it needs to recover. The result is chronic inflammation, worsening urinary problems, and a much higher risk of prostate cancer. I recall a man in his mid-60s who sat in my office with tears in his eyes. He had smoked for decades, and though he had finally quit, the damage was already taking its toll. His prostate was enlarged, his flow weak, and he felt betrayed by his own body. He told me he wished someone had been honest with him earlier about just how deeply smoking attacked not only his lungs, but also his prostate health. The good news is that it's never too late to quit. The body has a remarkable ability to heal, and circulation improves within weeks of stopping. But while smoking is one of the worst enemies, the next daily habit is another toxin men often rely on: alcohol. And when consumed in excess, it quietly breaks down your prostate from the inside. 2. Drinking too much alcohol. Drinking too much alcohol is a habit many men dismiss as harmless, yet it slowly undermines your prostate's ability to heal. Alcohol is a toxin, and every glass you pour forces your body to work harder to filter it out. Your kidneys and liver bear the brunt, but your prostate suffers as well. Alcohol dehydrates you, concentrates your urine, and irritates the urinary tract, all of which keep your prostate inflamed. Over time, heavy drinking raises blood pressure, disrupts hormones, and increases belly fat, which produces estrogen that further fuels prostate enlargement. I once counseled a man in his late 60s who admitted that a couple of beers each night was his way to relax. He didn't see the harm until his symptoms worsened: frequent urgency, poor flow, and constant fatigue. When he reduced his drinking and added alcohol-free days, the change was dramatic. Within weeks, his nights were quieter, and he told me he felt more like himself again. So while the occasional drink may not cause lasting damage, daily overindulgence keeps your prostate trapped in a cycle of irritation. But as harmful as alcohol can be, nothing compares to the most dangerous habit of all: the one mistake that single-handedly destroys more prostates than any other. 1. Neglecting diabetes management. Neglecting diabetes management is perhaps the single most damaging habit for your prostate. High blood sugar doesn't just affect your energy or your weight, it attacks the tiny blood vessels that supply your prostate with life. When those vessels are injured, the prostate becomes inflamed, healing slows, and the urinary symptoms you already struggle with only grow worse. Over time, uncontrolled diabetes can lead to irreversible damage, leaving you dependent on medications, procedures, or even surgery just to find relief. I remember a gentleman in his 70s who came to me convinced nothing could help his prostate anymore. He was frustrated, exhausted, and waking up 5 times a night. When we reviewed his history, it became clear that his blood sugar had been uncontrolled for years. No one had connected the dots for him, that his prostate problems were being fueled by his diabetes. Once he committed to managing his blood sugar through diet, exercise, and medication, the changes were undeniable. His urgency eased, his nights grew quieter, and for the first time in years, he felt hope. This is why I say, if you want to heal your prostate, you must first manage your diabetes. And now that you've heard all 10 destructive habits, let's bring everything together and talk about the powerful changes that can finally set your prostate on the path to true healing. Gentlemen, we've uncovered 10 daily habits that quietly destroy your prostate. Habits I've watched steal comfort, dignity, and peace of mind from men just like you. The good news is, the moment you change them, true healing can finally begin.